Hi, fifth grade peeps. Good morning, or good afternoon, or even good evening if you are someone who listens to this in the afternoon or at night. Happy Monday. Today, for our read aloud, we are going to be reading just chapter 6 today. So make sure that you have your orange booklet next to you so that you can fill out that chapter title for chapter 6. And then, as always, make sure you go on Google Classroom so you can answer my question for the day. You did see, if you were on Thursday, that I didn't just ask for your chapter title. I did ask for 2 chapter titles, but then I also asked for you all to give Bubby a character trait, and most of you did, which was so cool. And the ones that you put were phenomenal. They were wonderful. So thank you to those who have been doing their job every day, that have been reading along with me. And I'm hoping that you're liking the book. I know this is still a little different and it's weird, but we're just trying our best. So for those of you who are always doing your job, thank you, because I truly do appreciate that, and you make my job so much easier. So here we are. It is Monday. We are reading chapter 6 today. I do want you to do a chapter title, like I said, but make sure you go on Google Classroom and then you can see what your job is for today for reading. Before I read chapter 6, I want to remind you about where we left off. It was kind of a cliffhanger. So Anton and his grandma, which we call Bubby, were, they found his uncle, which was Bubby's son, Dimitri, and then someone named Sergey. And then they were like, let's go to the place where we're going to hide. And they're like, okay. So they're going, and all of a sudden they said, oh, we're here. And Anton was very confused because he said, this is very open. People can see us. But then the more they went down the path, there was a cave, and they weren't the only ones there. There were other people there, about 20 people there. So we're going to find out kind of what this place is about. So here we go, chapter 6 today. Oh, these glasses are hard to get on. There we go. Okay. Anton studied the group, remember the group in the cave, in the flickering light of the lamp. He knew many of them, but there were faces he'd never seen. He counted 28 in the band. 6 of them were men about his uncle's age. The rest were women and children. And off to the side of the group, Anton noticed one solitary boy who looked about his age. Dimitri motioned to the men to help him empty the wagon of supplies. Bubby stood before the rest of the group, leaning on her walking stick. She studied their tired faces. Anton knew she was exhausted, but she straightened herself and thumped her walking stick on the floor of the cave 2 times. Anton could not help but smile. Some of you I recognize, she began. You, Rena, your father was Levi Rawson? The woman nodded and smiled. You were a teenager the last time I saw you. We will all be getting well acquainted with one another soon enough. I know you are tired and scared, but we will conquer our fear. For the first time being, we are safe. We have shelter, food, and each other. All of you have left your homes, your communities. We will make a new community here. God will watch over us. With his guidance, all of us have made our way here on this night. What we have, we share. We will care for the children, take turns cooking, and turn this cave into a home. The men will go out looking for food each evening. We can only hope the darkness will keep them hidden. When they return in the daytime, we will stand watch so they can rest. There is one more thing we must all remember. If we are discovered, we are to gather north of here, near Verbata. There is another underground place called the Priest's Grotto. It isn't close, and the journey would be dangerous, but the countryside is full of farmers who will help us. Do not forget the Priest's Grotto. It will not be easy, but when we have our lives ever been easy? She paused and looked at each face in turn. United, we are strong, then we are alone. Now, let us all work together so we may get settled in and make our shelter more inviting. But first, let us all introduce ourselves to one another. I am Erica. Let's call her Show Stack. You know Miss Johnson's bad at names. This handsome boy is my grandson, Anton. So we just learned that Bubby's real name is Erica. but Anton knows her as Bubby, so her name's Erica. She raised her walking stick and pointed it at Anton. His face flushed red. The women chuckled, and one by one they said their names. Rosten, Grossman, Weiss, Birnbaum, Cernoyev, Festov. By then, 2 of the children had fallen asleep on a pile of blankets. With the introductions done, everyone sprang to work. Rena took Bubby by the arm, led her to a small stool, and helped her sit. She left Bubby there a moment before returning with a cup of water. Anton took a moment to study the cave. The oil lamps they'd brought made shadows dance and flicker across the cavern floor. The limestone walls were dark and grooved in places where water had seeped through the ground. Anton thought it must have taken centuries for the water to erode the rock, but the cave was warm and reasonably dry, even if it smelled like wet dirt. He left Bubby's hand on his shoulder, or he felt Bubby's hand on his shoulder. She had left her seat. Anton, she said, this is Daniel. His father is in the army, like yours. Hello, Anton said. Hi, Daniel replied. Bubby motioned to Dmitri and the other men who had returned with the rest of the wagon's supplies. I am sure the 2 of you can help make the cave more comfortable. Anton, why don't you introduce Daniel to your uncle? Bubby said. She used a tone of voice he had heard many times before. It meant that he had no choice in that. Anton smiled at Daniel. I guess we're going to be friends. Daniel nodded his head nervously. He didn't say much as Anton led him to Uncle Dmitri. And, true to Bubby's word, they were both given a list of chores. Anton looked around their new home with apprehension. The entrance to the cave may have been a narrow tunnel, but once through it, the main chamber was large and open with little nooks where a person might find some solitude. Toward the back of the cavern, tunnels led off in many directions. The cave was dark, and the light of the oil lamps was swallowed up quickly. The farther back they ventured, the stronger the smell of wet dirt became. Anton supposed they would get used to it. As he noticed earlier, the walls of the cave were damp, but he did not hear the sound of a stream or river. What would they do for water, he wondered. He supposed they would need to carry it in from the outside. Do not venture too far down the passageways or tunnels, Uncle Dmitri warned them. These caves go on for many kilometers with dozens of twists and turns. It would be easy to become hopelessly lost. But should we be discovered, this maze will work to our advantage. If the Gestapo, the SS, or the Ukrainian secret police ambush you, you must scatter and hide. Hurry down the tunnels as far as you can. The darkness will be your friend. Discovery is unlikely. We are well hidden here, but it is best to be prepared. Suitably warned, Anton and Daniel went to work. They stacked burlap bags of veggies and baskets of bread. Then they grabbed several bales of hay and helped the younger girls finish making straw mattresses for everyone. Can you show me how to do this? Daniel asked a small girl with dark hair and big eyes. Your mattresses look much more comfortable than mine. Whoever gets this one isn't going to sleep very well, I'm afraid. The little girl, Lena, giggled. Like this, she demonstrated. Daniel was good with the children, Anton observed. He had them joking and laughing, and soon they were making a game out of their work, racing to see who could make the most mattresses. Anton soon realized the girls were all developing crushes on Daniel. Anton was somewhat awestruck. He was far too shy around girls, even young ones, too. As he worked, Anton began to realize that people had been toiling in the cave for quite a while. Someone must have known about this place and set it up as the perfect rendezvous point if the Germans arrived. Larger holes dug and chiseled out by hand dotted the walls so that families could have their own space. A central kitchen area had been built near the back of the main cavern. Someone had even brought a small stove. Several of the women were peeling veggies and tending to a simmering stew. For a moment, Anton allowed himself to relax. Perhaps this place would be safe. Once the supplies were stored and the spaces divided up, Dmitri called everyone to gather around a single oil lamp. We have made a good start today, he said. However, this is not a perfect place for us. We do not have fresh water. which means Sergei, Leonid, Slava, Herman, Yakov, and I will likely need to make several trips out per night in order to bring back enough for all of us. The rest of you will stay behind. Daniel and Anton, it will be your job to keep watch for German patrols. We must not light a fire or the lamps often, only to cook and only in the daytime. Does everyone understand? Anton was disappointed. True, he was scared of being captured, but he wanted to go out at night and look for supplies. He wanted to help, not stay behind as a glorified lookout. He would wait until the time was right and talk to his uncle. He knew where to find food. Even though most of the harvest was done, there were orchards where you could still find fruit. The surrounding fields had held lots of wheat that could be gathered up and ground into flour. He could be useful. That was what he wanted, to make a difference. The meeting was over. Parents gathered their children and shuffled off to their own small spaces. But Anton noticed that Daniel stood by the lamp, shifting back and forth on his feet. "Are you alone here?" Anton asked him. Daniel stared at the ground. Yes. He didn't elaborate, and Anton didn't really want him to. Everyone deserved a few secrets. The boy's face was dark, and he had dark shadows under his eyes. Clearly, he had not been sleeping or eating regularly for some time. Anton knew there were things that were difficult to put into words, and sometimes talking only made a person remember what was best forgotten. Daniel would talk when he was ready. "If you'd like, there is a space back there, big enough for two. We can each drag one of the mattresses back there," he offered. "What about your grandmother? Shouldn't you stay with her?" Daniel asked. Anton shrugged. "She snores. Come on, if we're going to keep watch during the night, we're going to need to be rested." Anton led Daniel to an area that was barely wide enough for their two straw mattresses. As they arranged their sleeping quarters, Anton told Daniel about his uncle Pavel and how much he was worried about him. Remember that Pavel went to go join the fighting that was going on, and Uncle Dmitri stayed back with the family. "With my father gone, it is difficult for the family to be separated even more." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "I know exactly what you mean," he said. "My mother..." Anton noticed Daniel's jaw clenching tightly. "You don't have to tell me anything," Anton said. But now that he started talking, Daniel wouldn't be stopped. "My village is just a small place north of Borta. It is hardly a village at all, really. It has a store and a synagogue and a few houses clustered around a crossroads. Not much ever happens there. We farm and we worship and live quiet lives. Then the Nazis arrived, and our quiet lives were suddenly very noisy. No one knows why they attacked. Usually they entered a town or village and simply took over. We were peasants, farmers. We could offer them no resistance. Yet they came in with tanks and half-tracks shooting down people in the street. Jews, Gentiles, it did not matter who you were. They were filled with bloodlust. That means that they were searching for a reason to kill someone. Soldiers went from house to house, dragging my neighbors outside into the street and gunning them down. Our farmhouse was on the outskirts of the village. My mother and sister and I tried to get away, but my sister was too small to run. I could not carry her. My mother tried, but she was not fast enough. The Nazis caught them. My mother screamed at me to run and hide, and I did. I ran to the fields. I left them. Later, I saw them loaded onto a truck and taken away. I don't know where. I stumbled upon Sergei in his wagon, and he told me about this place. Daniel clenched his fists. I should have fought those monsters. If I were stronger, my family would still be together. So, peeps, you probably can assume in your head that they were probably taken to a concentration camp, unfortunately. Anton could see moistness in Daniel's eyes. He did not know what to say. Only that without hope, Daniel would never survive this awful war. "I am so sorry. I can't imagine witnessing such a thing. But think of it. As far as you know, your mother and sister are still alive. My bubby is always telling me that God will provide and watch over us, and he will watch over your family too." "Anton, I mean no disrespect to your bubby. I'm sure you love her as much as I loved mine. And I mean no disrespect to you either, but where was God when the Nazis attacked my village? Where was he when they took my mom and sister? Where was God when they shot Mr. and Mrs. Hagerbomber? They were our village elders. They couldn't fight. Yet the Germans shot them down like dogs. Where was God then? Daniel's voice was full of anger. Anton did not know what to do. Nothing he could say would make a difference. Perhaps Daniel just needed some time. He vowed to listen to him when he talked. Perhaps a friendly ear would help. I'm sorry, Anton repeated. I will pray that your family is safe. What will we do? Daniel asked. It was a large and loaded question. How are they going to survive? Where would they find Daniel's family? Was either of their fathers still alive? The war could not last forever. If they managed to outlast it, what would the rest of their lives look like if no one was around to help them pick up the pieces? I do not know, Daniel, Anton said. Bubby says... No. This moment wasn't about his grandmother's wisdom or even about his own need to believe that everything will be fine. This was about taking comfort where they could and forcing themselves to carry on with their lives. I think it is up to us. For now, I think we just try to make it through each day alive. Daniel did not answer. Anton lay down on his mattress, and in a matter of seconds, sleep overtook him. That night, Anton did not dream. And that's the end of chapter 6. All right, so I want you to, when this video is over, I want you to think of a chapter title for that chapter 6, and then go on Google Classroom and answer my question for today so I know that you listened to me read. All right, peeps, have a good Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for our morning meeting. Bye.